Welcome back, guys. Let's start off where we left last week. Last week, where we were trying to get the directory passing done, and we were able to print every directories, and then finally we managed to fix some issues with our memory management unit, and with that, we were actually able to even recursively parse every directories within the initial root. So right now we have a structure called some global directory structure that holds every directory and file. Symlinks are not considered because right now we just skipped it. But we still don't have the setup to read a file. But right now we are able to just list directories and files. So that is good. And it's working. We tested last time. So overall, we're still working on our own kernel, and we are able to we were able to do the MMU unit, and then scheduling, switching between user and kernel, stuff like that. And we also managed to do our block layer, and on top of that we are working on the VFS layer with the front end of X4 file system. And right now I would say we are done with 70% of our VFS layer, because right now we are able to pass the entire file system, and we have the inodes for everything. So we just need to write a high level helper or finish our high level helper, which is our fopen, because right now we are able to parse every directories. That is all. We don't check anything. So that's a different thing. So all we have to do is that right now we will have an actual file that is being passed up onto us, and we have to use that file and use this entire parse lookup and return the actual inodes or the actual output of the inodes, because we right now we know every possible directories in this file system, and that's good. So yeah, let's get started and see where it takes us. So as you can see, last week we finally, after a lot of trouble, let's just say bash builds, and continue, and you can see we have passed 256 directories, which is the limit that we have all set, and we were able to recursively list different directories. Example, as you can see, looks like this raw data has this many directories and some random stuff, and we were able to go into it and print it perfectly. So in case something actually had a directory, we would have recursively found that too. So that's just working perfectly fine. So today what we will have to do is go back to our high level helper. So if we come down to our fopen, where is our fopen? As you can see, we mount the file system, we call fopen with etc password, and that is it. So if we open that, here we have the initial recursive root strategy, which is just to start from root, because as we know, almost anything we want to read is going to be started from the root inode, because relative paths are just for our own convenience. End of the day, it's going to be converted into a full path and used by the actual tool or actual program. So we do not support relative paths. We only take full paths, and if we give the full path, we should be able to print it. That is all. I mean, we should be able to reach that file. So once we recursively got every output from the root directory, we pass it to directory parsing, that is actually to recursively go into every input from the root directory, and then we would get the final directories. So if we also just go inside that, it's as simple as going through every input that we got from the previous layer and recursively parse them as directory entries, and then just call recursive directory entry in case it is an actual directory, because once we have the inode, we also recursively again do the same step, and if that is 0, that means we know that we have reached a symlink, so we don't care about it. If it's not that, it's definitely a directory, so we further call recursive directory parsing, and it just works. So what do we do? Now we have the things parsed. Now we need to actually use this etc password, because as you can see, maybe how do we actually do it? We will have to we have to go through every directory entry, and we have only passed 24 directories, but we passed 256. Something is wrong. Yeah, even here we only allocated like 24 extend directories, but it looks like we parsed 256, which is either we overwrote something or probably we are wrong with this line, because I know that this feels weird, because I'm hoping that if this actually is returning, that would mean then it would give us the current directory count that it had, and it should be concatenated with this, but that's wrong, right? Because we are passing current directory count to, maybe then we should always pass 0 and get the directory here. Let's try that. In that case, how would we actually stop? Because we would never stop, right? Okay, now it's valid. We only managed to go through 24 of them, but is this just 24? It does not look like that. Okay, let's just see where it takes us. Let's go through one at a time. So we're just gonna have another for loop, and it's gonna be just int 0 and 24 and a plus, just say here we need to go through every directory entry, right? So we have the initial directory entry, and we have the file name. So let's just say, let's just print it. Let's see what happens first of all, and then we'll decide. File, let's just say yes. Okay, I'm from India and I'm writing my own kernel. Welcome to my stream. And currently we are working on the VFS layer, and yeah, currently just trying to write the front end for X4 file system, and we are almost done. So hopefully, yeah. Yeah, let's just print it. Let's see what is inside there first of all, and then we'll decide. because I need to know what exactly we want to test. So let's put flash belts. Okay, we are printing the directories. Looks like we are overwriting the entries. This looks like this is the one that got finally parsed, and this one is the one initial one. Probably we are overwriting. No, I'm from South India, so I mean like the southern border. Maybe you may have heard about Trivandrum. It's nearby that. Or maybe you might have heard about Kanyakumari. Tamil. Okay, so definitely something fishy is going on. Probably it's just my directory entries, because when we actually print it out in the actual recursion stage, it's working, but the actual results are getting overwritten. Okay. What exactly are we passing? We're passing the directory count and directory results. And what is the key that is being used? Directory count. Okay, I'm using my directory count as the key. That's why I'm overwriting it. So probably I just, so my initial idea was wrong. Let's just bring it back. Hi. Let's just bring it back to how it was before. So we should be, it should be, what the fuck is that? Fucking, we start by 0, and within that we just keep calling directory count. And can see we built this and that. Okay, now we only have the initial entries, because every other entry would have higher index, and we don't have that many indexes here. Indices. No, it's just Kernel. It's almost a replica for Linux, but without any really complicated stuff. In general, I just want to get my kernel working, but it will be ABI compatible with Linux, so it will have all the syscalls. We should be able to write a normal ARM code that's compiled in a normal compiler, and it should be able to run it. And but then it does not have all the fancy stuff, many optimizations. It's just going to have general things that I can actually understand to work with, and also in general for my own understanding. So I'm just going to increase this. So let's see. Let's increase to 256. Let's increase to 256. Let's increase this to 256. I don't know if I have to increase it somewhere else. But let's try. Okay. It looks like we have a little bit of it. I guess my directory counts is completely messing up things. Yeah, I'll use AI. I'll use Cloud mostly. Yeah. First of all, I need to get a little bit of understanding of what's going on, and then I can ask it to think about what's going on. But I'm not gonna use AI in a way that it's going to write code, because if it's gonna write code, there's no point for me here. I want to actually understand what's going on. So I'm just gonna use AI to understand things and then write it on my own, because it's for my own purpose and it's for my own job too, because I want to learn more about kernel exploitation that comes up in my own job. So yeah, this is for my own purpose. So I have to understand what's going on, because I know that if I just ask it, it's going to give me the answer. But before that, at least maybe I'll try a little bit, and then if I'm completely lost, yes, definitely I'll ask. Okay, first of all, let's see. Um, I'm pretty sure that it's the issue with my recursion and specifically this directory count variable. So the actual results are being stored using this count. So every time I'm inside inside a recursion or inside some depth, I should update the proper index. But right now what is happening is that, yes, it's the same. You can just search for Michael Keynes. I'll be there. I'm working as a senior security engineer in Stockholm. So definitely we started here. We added this to the index 1. Let's just print our current index before we increment the count. That way we know what is there at that point before we increment it. Okay, so current directory count is, so let's just put L. I don't know if my L will work. No, it's my directory count. And what's the type of my account? It's UN64, so it's fine. Yes, I do use AI. I use Claude, but I don't use it to write codes. I use it to understand what the fuck I'm supposed to write, and then I deal with the code myself. Because there's no point in writing code with Claude. It's definitely gonna write the code, but I'll never understand anything what it's gonna write. So it's better we understand whatever we wanna write and then write it manually. That way at least we don't have to worry about, that way I can understand what I'm writing. But in my actual work, probably I'm not gonna write any code on my own. I'm just gonna use Clouds. Okay, where's my new print message? It's supposed to give me current directory counts. Let's search for it. Current directory counts. As you can see, somewhere down here we were at index 34, and the next step we are in 62. What's the point? It's not about the code. It's about understanding what's in the Linux kernel, because In my day-to-day work, I'll have to read through exploits on how things kernel internals are being exploited. So if I'm reading a new CV and it's exploiting something related to X4 file system, how it handles buffers, then I need to understand where I'm looking at or how exactly it interacts with other subsystems. So in case if it's just affecting a X4 file system, or it can be escalated around other subsystems, things like that. Because right now, only if I have a little bit of understanding of what it is, then I can give my input into it. If not, it would just be like any other CV. You would just see that there's a new CV came up in Linux kernel and it gave you some privilege. That's all you can deduce from that. But if you actually understood what's inside of it, you can actually maybe even write your own exploits. And that's part of my job. I have to write active exploits. So yeah, I want to learn more about how things work internally so I can write my own exploits. And definitely, okay, until 30. So we started off at 0 and then 0, 2, 3, and then it's directly 8, 9, 10. So definitely something is fucking with my recursion. So let's see if we can visualize our directory passing. So we start off with 0. Let's say we have like 5 directory entries there. So for every directory entry, we go inside that, we try to parse it, and let's say there was /etc, and within etc probably let's assume there's 3 directories. So within this loop, we would have 3 directories. We would update those and we increment it by 3 in every iteration. Also, in every iteration, we would also call recursive directory parsing, which would mean the moment we increment it by 1, we would also go into that directory and see if there is any further directories there, and that would, let's start with index as 1. Let's say that finds 2 more directories, and that means it would return, okay, that means it would return 1 plus 2, that would be 3, and then I'm again incrementing it with this. So that's the issue. I just have to return the length of the current iteration instead of returning the directory count. Okay, makes sense. So all I have to do is maybe create a new variable. Because this is a final variable, so let's, for every iteration, let's take an event 64. Ah, shit. 64. What do we name it? Yeah, we can name it as current length. And we'll just always start by 0 because that particular iteration should always have 0 length, and it should, no, I think it should be inside the, no, it should be inside here too, because here we need the length of the current iteration that is going on recursively. So we also need here something. So it's going to be and it's going to be we name it current inside, and then we can call it, you can always assume it as 0, and we can increment current inside plus equals 1, and we can remove this, and we should get the length here. I have to increment the current length here and current inside the length here, and I'm gonna get the current inside here, and current length is equal to current inside. I'm gonna return current length. So this way, let's just see if we can picture it. We start from the root node. We have, let's say, 5 nodes, and we get into one of the node, and that particular node has 3 directories. So it's still one directory parsed, plus we get into that particular node, and that would return a actual length. So we can increment the current length. Yes. And we do that for every directory that we found within that initial directory. Yeah, that's it. I think so. I don't know. I guess at least it feels like that. And current length will always have the overall length of every directories within that current root. Because current root can have multiple directories, and every directory within that can have multiple directories. So that's why we have the current length, which is in the top, and then we have an internal counter, which is in current inside, which is going to handle the internal directory case, and it's going to give us it's the same as this, because current inside is always going to be 0, and we just get the value from here. And we have the current length, which is going to be the final one. Okay, hopefully this is not stupid enough. Let's see if it runs. Oh shit. Okay, we wrote something even more stupid. And now the actual implementation works, because that does not care about the index. Only the outputs actually care about the index, because I need to store them, and I need an index, and that's why the final output is just fucking empty. Okay. Yeah, the actual implementation just works. We just don't have the final output. Yeah, it's fine. Let's just print entries and see what Let's see what we have. Okay, one more thing is that I need to also fix this directory count. Yes. And I should always use the current length. Okay. Current length. Current length here too. And it's okay, nothing changed. Okay, something changed. I guess we are at the same state where we are overwriting things. Okay, let's see if we can find that. And we started with directory count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then after 7, we directly jumped to 21. Why the fuck did that happen? What's the current directory? Okay, it's because we are assuming that some directory within that must have came out, so the current inside would have gotten incremented, but then the actual print messages within this should have been there, right? Because it's just the same function, it's just recursion. So we go in, we should have gone inside there and we should have somehow incremented this. Only then we would have returned this value. Yes, exactly. If not, we would not have returned it. Okay. Now we can just assume that how the fuck just jumped from 7 to 21. So definitely we have incremented it somehow. And where do we print it every time? We are printing it right before we increment it. And that's the value that we use here. And this is incremented within every directory. That is also fine. Oh, okay. This should not be incremented here. This should be incremented here. No, let's do it after that. It should be incremented here. Shit. Should be incremented here. So this is the high level count. So this is going to be the root level directories. And for every root level directory, we find directories within it. And for every internal directory, we find more directories and we assign it there and we increment it. here. This is the first for loop. Okay, let's try. Oh, fucking. Now we fucked up even more, and our total past entries has reduced quite a bit from 24 to 10. Let's check our okay. We have 0, and then we jump. We are in 0 for a long time. That's so fucking annoying. This is why I hate fucking regression. I have no idea to picture how things are actually going on internally. We just have to assume that this will go this way, but when we run it, it just goes some other way. How many bytes did I allocate? Okay, I have allocated 256. So there's 256 direction node entries, and then I'm passing it as 0. We start from 0, and for every directory, this is just to continue within here. So this should not be an issue. The current length is getting updated here. But if I'm gonna update it here, still I'll need to update it because the initial entry should always be updated. Only the recursive entries needs to be somehow calculated and appended to the main current length. So this condition also seems to be fine. It's somehow whenever I reach here, initially it was just always zeros. So I'm overwriting 0 every time, which is fucking wrong. I think when I'm actually inside the directory loop, I'm just supposed to update current inside because I start from here. I have an initial loop. Let's say that is going over /bin and /etc. Let's take these two examples. And then within, let's say I'm going inside /etc here. If I'm going there, that means, let's say there's few files inside it. For the first iteration, if I'm going to use just current length, so for every iteration, I'm just going to use 0. So that's just wrong. So I have to use, let's say, current inside then. then current inside can never be 0. It has to start from current length. So it has to start from current length. I'm gonna increment it for, let's say, 3 entries. But if I'm gonna explore one of it, then I should get the total of entries that I have used inside it. So it's going to be current length plus equal to current inside. And then I go to the next entry. So I need to increment it again. This is getting complicated by every minute. But at least I guess I'm getting a little bit of what should be there. Let's try. Nothing wrong in trying. No. So I come here, I start from 0. I have two directories. So for the first directory, I parse it. Maybe that's the issue. Results value count actually may not give us every directories. It's just probably is going to give every possible physical block of an actual directory. So this is not going over every directory. Yeah, fucking missed that. This is the one that is actually going over every directory, and this is the one that is going inside every directory. So it's going to be here. So we should never increment anything within this loop. So let's remove this entirely. Only thing we have to add is we start from, let's say, root node. So root node's count value probably depends on how many physical blocks it has actually used. So in case, let's say it only used one physical block, we are inside the initial iteration, and we get inside, we parse it as a directory entry, and we get certain nodes. Let's assume it has 2 nodes, which is bin and etc. We go inside that. So now we have to increment it once after every assignment. So let's increment current inside plus equal to 1. So we finished bin's iteration, and we recursively explore bin, and what we pass as the initial thing, we should pass 0, and also we are not going to use this variable at all because we are just going to get the length out of it. So it's going to give us the current inside length. and we can increment it on top of our current inside, because current inside, let's say we are inside bin, we increment it once because we know that bin has already used one index. Now we explore bin recursively. So okay, let's take Etsy as an example. So we are inside Etsy and we used one index for Etsy, which is just the Etsy index. And then we come here, we recursively call Etsy. So we are inside, we go inside Etsy. So we are again back here. We read the value, and let's just again assume it's just 1, and we pass that entry, and let's say at this attempt it has 2 more directories. Let's just say it has only 2 files. So we go inside. For the first file, we add it here and we increment the current inside, and it's not a directory, so we skip it. And again, for the next iteration, it won't be a directory, so we skip it. So our current inside is done. Just in case we update current length equal to current inside. Okay, even if we skip, we need to update the variable so that we somehow know what we want to write. So it's current length is equal to current inside, and this should be enough. Let's just format it a little better. And if it is equals and we are supposed to continue, in that case we can update current length with current inside. If not, we get the output from there and we update it. So we do it twice, and finally we just put, so we would have 4 here, 2 directories, and within that first directory we had 2 files, so it's overall 4 indexes used, and we return that. Well, I don't know, let's just say that we make progress, at least theoretically. Okay, we fucked up. It's not very good. Oh, shit. Okay. Okay, guys. It's not going to. At least we are not able to wrap our minds around it. So it's time to ask the class. Okay. How do I picture it? Indexing within the recursive directory passing right now is just overwriting things. Overwriting or fattening things, and to properly update the index in every recursive call and return proper length out of it. Give an ASCII art to showcase the recursion. Okay, let's see. Okay, whatever, but from our point of view, we try to explore it by having a small example, which is just we are going over root nodes, and root node has two directories, and for every directory we increment it once, and then we call a recursion on Etsy because that's the first node. And the assumption is that this call is supposed to give us the length that it has used. So in that case, if we have used the first, okay, now I guess before that I found one issue because every time I'm starting with current length, so I guess I have to pass current length here. Let's see, let's try that before we read the output of it. Because when I thought about it, it felt like because every iteration I'm starting from 0, that's why it's just overwriting it. So if I'm actually passing current length, maybe I should pass current inside. Yeah, I need to pass current inside. But what we get is total length. I think the issue here is I'm not able to separate the running count from the length. Maybe I just have to have two different variables. That's why I thought I have to write these two variables, which is one is current inside and one being current length, because that would be the running sum and this would be the index. Maybe I have to pass both of them then. Oh, fuck it. Okay, so let's take this as an example. So initially we have inode 11, and let's say inode 11 has inode x and inode y, and we have a and b in the initial upper root. Okay, so let's say, okay, we just have to give depth first. Okay, so we start from append a. What the fuck is a? A is just this, and cursor is currently in 0, so slot 0 is used. Now we increment slot. Okay, that means I need to write a condition here because this is the outer loop. No. I'm again confusing it because this outer loop is supposed to be going over the physical blocks. This is the actual loop where I go through the directory, so this is fine. Within that, I set up the first entry and I increment it. And then what the fuck? Append X to slot 1, what does that mean? I guess let's just take cursor as here. So we incremented the first one. Now we recursively call that. Here we still pass current inside. Let's just assume that's the current cursor in, and we go inside that. First increment, and this is the first recursive call for, let's assume, HC, and it has current inside as 1, and then within that we increment the cursor to 2. Let's say that happens here, and then we again recursively call this with current inside. That's the issue. Right now I'm supposed to call current directory count. Okay. So let's just say directory count is equal to current length. So I have the current length. I go through the initial directory, and then I take current inside as current length, and I append the first one, and then I explore that tree, and I'm gonna pass current inside for that. So this should actually get that current inside. And it's going to return me current inside, which is what? Well, looks like, looks like, let's just keep this example and then figure out it. Now I fucked up because I'm not returning at all. I'm stuck somewhere. Possibly because I'm using 128 here. Let's just say I can only pass 5 directories. Build it. Okay, so that was the issue. Oh, fucking. We have lost and found, we have bin, and we have boot. And we don't have anything else. That's just so fucking annoying. Okay guys, it's just completely wrong. We have to go through this again. So the initial loop, I get into it, I have directory length, which is 0. And then leave this fucking loop because that loop is just for my own. So that loop does not increment the count in any way. So inside that, we have the first loop, which is just 5 iterations, and it's always going to start with current length. Is that okay? Yeah, it is fine. And then I'm gonna use current inside. and I'm going to increment it. So this is the first append, and then we call a recursive with that current inside. So let's see, let's print it here then. Your printf calling recursive. With current inside. Let's just copy it and let's paste it here. After, now let's print it again. Let's see what happens. Okay, now we go to, and it's going to be calling recursive. With 1, so this is the first iteration because we are here in the initial directory inside root node, and that directory actually has something to parse. Fuck. This is the first directory and that has something to parse. Oh my fucking god. And the moment we get inside that, we have 2 empty directories. And we have the call recursive after, which is 2. Why the fuck is it 2? Maybe because we had 2 empty nodes, which is just dot dot. Okay, now I understand. Probably this is correct. Maybe we have this, and then we have 1 dot, and then we have bin, and then we have 2 dot dots, and then we have boot, and then we have probably 3 dot dots. If that's just dot and dot dot, it's just 2 directories. Exactly. We start recursive count with 1, and after recursive call, we have total of 2. So we had explored 2 nodes and we have assigned something for them, and now we assign that 2 to current length. I think that's the issue. We're supposed to increment current inside. So we take this. Current. Okay, this is fine. Here we get the current inside, which is 2. And then we increment that current inside with current length. So we would get something like, oh shit. I should get current after, no, it's current length. Okay, so what is the current length? Let's also print it here so that we know what we are returning. Returning from recursive directory, and it's going to be current length. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's kill it. Let's go to our examples. Okay, we start from current recursive as 1, and we have 2 empty directories. So after recursive it's 2, and the current length is still 2. Why? Current length should be 3, right? Because we have 1 directory here, and then we have a current length, current inside, which is 2, and that current inside should be incremented with current length. Then it should have been 3, right? Why the fuck is it still 2? What the fuck? I am printing current recursive after, which is what? Yeah, which is this line, current recursive after, which is just 2. Ah, okay, I get it, because current length is still not updated anywhere. Current length is here. Okay, then returning recursive only returned 1 directory. But there's definitely 2 directories here. So every time I am inside the directory, okay, now I have a proper question to think about. It's a simple question. Oh, not this. Calling recursive, and we are initially in the first attempt. So calling recursive just returns 1, which is here, because we are in the first attempt, so we had this. I believe so. Let's just print two things, current length length and current inside. Instead of guessing, we can just say current length. Let's print it after, and let's just remove this and this, and then we have printed here. Because if final shit, let's just print here. Let's just remove these two things, and let's final here. And here we can only take contents. Hi. Yeah, all good. Still debugging some directory, I guess you're passing issues. It's just a logic thing. I guess this time it's not about implementation or any protocol implementation. It's just normal recursion that is fucking with me. Okay, so we start here, calling recursive with current length is 5 and not this. Calling recursive equals this one. So the current length is 0, but current inside is 1 because we just incremented the first directory, and we have 2 directories parsed. So when I'm returning from recursive directory, it should be 2, but it is just 1. I have to figure out why is that first of all. I first come inside and then I get 1 here. The second time I get inside, it's simply not possible. And my current length is 5 and the current length is inside is 6. Fucking shitty. So what's happening here is just that I have to recursively parse every entry within the directories. So I could just use what is it? Something like a queue. So I always put the entries in the end and do something like that. So that would be iterative, and I can actually debug it instead of this recursive version. Maybe I have to change this recursion into queue based. That way I can just, every time I reach a directory, I just put it inside a queue, and the other this function call is supposed to be called for every node that is in the queue, so I don't have to recursively call it. So there would be 2 different for loops. The first for loop will just go into every node and get all inodes, put it into a queue. Now we have a second loop that goes into every node that is in the queue, parse the nodes, get the inodes, put it into queue, and we do this while loop until there's nothing in the queue. That would be the iterative version. I think that's better than this. Maybe I should think about implementing that. At least I would have some way of telling what is happening. Here it's just fucking magic. I have no fucking clue why is it getting incremented. But in my head, the logic seems pretty fine. So we have a directory node, we parse it. So after we parsed it, probably let's just say we have two directories within it. And we increment the first directory because we are inside the first loop. So the current inside is incremented. But in case we reached this case, that is that the current directory is also a directory, so we can recursively go inside that. So we call current inside at that point. We have incremented it, so we can just pause it here. Yes, it should be possible. So the second time we get into this loop, we come back again here and we parse that, and let's say there's nothing here, it's just dot dot and dot dot. So we get into this loop and we increment it once and we increment it twice. Not really. Let's say 10. Because it is possible that this is returning 0. Even 64. Now we have current length. And now we in case if it is current inside 10 is greater than 0, then we can current inside is equal to current inside 10. But still, then if I had actually, did I have equal to or plus equal to? I don't know. Then I could just say, okay, let's see if this change had done anything. Looks like it did not. Hmm. But my questions looks like the directory count seems to be fine. Right now, the actual values are just getting fucked up. Okay, guys, it's just getting too much, and it's already 1 hour 20 minutes. So I have to leave. Well, let's debug this tomorrow, and let's see if we can get this passing walking tomorrow. But I believe we managed to do nothing today, so that's a big thing. At least every day we would get somewhere. Today we just started here and we are ending here. So let's write to do. Fix the indexing issue in the count value. One more thing is, should I pass current inside or should I pass current line? It is current inside because if index has been used, this directory passing should know about it because it should not overwrite it. So yeah, okay. Yeah, let's debug it tomorrow. Thank you guys. I'll see you tomorrow then.